So we've got some updates on the Uvalde shooting that took place yesterday that we discussed on this show. Everything was happening so fast, and the updates were getting updates. Honestly, it was hard to keep up, and we ended up with a really late broadcast. So I appreciate the folks who were bearing with me yesterday. Here's some of the updates that we missed yesterday. I want to take a look at this. Firstly, I want to say we had quoted by the end of the night that there were 20, so in effect, 22 confirmed deceased. So uncomfortable even calling it. I don't even know what to say about that. Like, deceased, dead children sounds really bad, but I mean, that's what it is, so let's just call it what it is. So there weren't 20, there were 19, at least at this point, at the time of filming today, 19 confirmed dead children from the Uvalde shooting, and 2 adults killed. That's probably a better way to put it, even though that's what a weird monologue to have with oneself. So 21 confirmed kills, 19 of which being children. And yeah, so let's take a look at this. This is from Associated Press. I know you folks just absolutely love it when I read the news to you. I'm gonna skim around a little bit. I got a little piece of hair going on here that I missed, so we'll just ignore that. But I'm gonna skim around a little bit. Just bear with me here for it. So, governor said Texas gunman said he was going to shoot up the school. Let's see, from the social media posts, gunman, this is from AP, gunman who massacred 19 children, 2 teachers at the elementary school, had warned in online messages minutes before the attack that he had shot his grandmother and was going to shoot up a school, the governor said on Wednesday. Let's see if we can get that. Governor Greg Abbott, evil swept across Uvalde yesterday. Anyone who shoots his grandmother in the face has to have evil in his heart. But it's far more evil for someone to gun down little kids. I mean, he's right. But we'll jump into that a little bit later. He legally bought 2 rifles just days before, soon after his birthday, authorities said. And I'd caught something yesterday that mentioned that on his 18th birthday, the first thing he did was went out and bought an AR, right? Investigators shed no light on the motive for the attack, who left at least 17 people wounded. Which also left at least 17 people wounded, so 17 others, I guess. The governor said Ramos, weird, had a known criminal or mental health history, or had no known criminal or mental health history. Then we'll get into mental health in a bit. For the bloodbath, Ramos sent 3 messages online. Abbott said Ramos wrote in the first that he was going to shoot his grandmother, that he'd already shot the woman, and then finally that he was going to shoot up an elementary school, according to Abbott. It was not clear whether Ramos specified which school, though. He sent a private one-to-one text message on Facebook that were later discovered after the terrible tragedy, according to Andy Stone, spokesman. He said Facebook is cooperating with investigators amid calls around the U.S. for tighter restrictions on firearms. The Republican governor repeatedly talked about mental health struggles among Texas young people and argued that tougher gun laws in Chicago, New York, and California were ineffective. Just the fact that the governor's even talking about that. Honestly, it doesn't surprise me that he says Chicago, New York, and California, because I'm just going to assume that Governor Abbott couldn't figure out where Chicago is on a map. I mean, let's just dissect that for just a second here. What states border California? What are the gun laws like in those states? Take a second. What states border Illinois? Is there, I don't know, maybe a city in Indiana with high crime rate that's like, I don't know, really close to Chicagoland? It's like technically a part of Chicagoland, even though it's on the other side of the border, where most guns in Chicago come from. I don't know. Is that a thing? What are the gun laws like in Indiana? Does Mike Pence know? I bet he does. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. Democrat, we'll get into that because that's fun. Texas has some of the most gun-friendly laws in the nation and has been the site of some of the deadliest shootings in the U.S. over the past 5 years. As details of the latest mass shooting, I need some water or something. To rock the U.S. emerged, grief engulfed Uvalde, population 16,000. It mentions the deceased from what we can piece together from their family members, but I'll let you check that out online. So one account mentions that the killer barricaded himself by locking the door and just started shooting children and teachers that were inside the classroom. It just shows you the complete evil of the shooter. Police and others responding to the attack also went around breaking windows at the school to enable students and teachers to get out. Law enforcement officers eventually broke into the classroom and killed Ramos in one last exchange of gunfire. Authorities said the attack, let's see, talks about Joe Biden, attempts over the years to expand, repeated attempts over the years to expand background checks and enact other curbs have run into a Republican opposition in Congress. Thanks, Ted Cruz. Shooting came days before the National Rifle Association annual convention was set to begin in Houston, with Texas governor and both of the state's Republican U.S. senators scheduled to speak. We discussed that on the program, and you know how Governor what's her name from South Dakota, was trying to hide tweets. I should have covered that today from yesterday's show about how the South Dakota governor was basically hiding from, I don't know, either the NRA or hiding from you, the folks on Twitter, and her constituents. But that was an interesting one. On social media in the days and hours before the massacre, Ramos appeared to drop hints that something was going to happen. On the day he bought his second weapon last week, an Instagram account that investigators say apparently belonged to Ramos carried a photo of two AR-styled rifles. That post tagged another Instagram user, one with more than 10,000 followers, asking her to share the picture. The user said, "I barely know you, and you tagged me in a picture with some guns," replied the Instagram user, who since removed her profile. It's just scary. On the morning of the attack, the account linked to the gunman replied, "I'm about to." Instagram confirmed to Associated Press that it was working with law enforcement to review the account, but declined to answer questions about the postings. Investigators are also looking at an account on TikTok, possibly belonging to the shooter, with a profile that reads, "Kids Be Scared IRL," for the boomers in the crowd. That's in real life. Investigators do not yet know why Ramos targeted the school. Would not see a motive or catalyst right now. They found one of the rifles in his truck, the other in the school, according to briefings given to lawmakers. He was wearing a tactical vest, right? But it had no hardened body armor plates inside. Lawmakers are told he also dropped a backpack containing several magazines full of ammunition near the school entrance. Apparently, he was planning on, making it rounds there. One of the guns purchased with a federally licensed dealer in the Uvalde area on the 17th of May. My God, it's the 25th now. According to State Senator John Whitmer, who was briefed by investigators, he bought 375 rounds of ammunition the next day, then purchased the second rifle last Friday. On Tuesday morning, Ramos shot and wounded his grandmother at her home. Neighbors called the police after she staggered outside. They saw she'd been shot in the face. Ramos then crashed a truck through the railing at the school. Exchanged gunfire with one Uvalde school district officer who was wounded. He went inside, exchanged more gunfire with two arriving Uvalde police officers who were still outside. These officers were also wounded. Dylan Silva, whose nephew was in a nearby classroom, said students were watching the Disney movie Moana when they heard several loud pops and a bullet shattered a window. Moments later, their teacher saw the attacker stride past the door. "Oh my God," the teacher shouted twice. According to Silva, the teacher didn't even have time to lock the door, he said. Or, "Oh my God, he has a gun," the teacher shouted. On Wednesday morning, volunteers were seen arriving at the town civic center with Bibles and therapy dogs. Great. 3 children and an adult remained at the San Antonio hospital, where 2 of them, a 66-year-old woman and a 10-year-old girl, were listed in serious condition. Yeah, that's I think that's about it for the old AP article. Barricaded himself in, Jesus Christ, and just started blasting. My God, that's a tough pill to swallow. So of course today during a news conference where the illustrious Greg Abbott was discussing the shooting in Uvalde, he was disrupted by a member of the crowd. So let's take a look at that.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Just sit down.
You're out of line and an embarrassment.
Sit down and don't play this stuff.
Shooting is right now, and you are doing nothing.
No, he needs to get his ass out of here. This isn't the place to talk this over.
This is totally predictable when you...
Sir, you're out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium. I can't believe you're a sick son of a bitch that would come to a deal like this to make a political issue. It's on assholes like you. Why don't you get out of here?
Just in case you haven't heard, that was Texas gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke. AAP reports Beto O'Rourke disrupts a news conference on shooting. A news conference about the shooting at a Texas school broke into shouting Wednesday as Democratic gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke blamed Republican Governor Greg Abbott for inaction ahead of the latest in a long string of mass shootings in the state. As the Republican governor was finishing his remarks, O'Rourke approached the stage, pointed to the governor, and said, "This is on you. You are doing nothing. You are offering us nothing." O'Rourke told Abbott as a police officer held out his arm as if to stop the candidate from storming the stage. Because we've seen a lot of that lately, I guess. Also, I lost my place. Some on the stage yelled back at O'Rourke, with Uvalde Mayor Don McLaughlin, a Republican, calling him a sick son of a bitch. So that's who that piece of trash was over there to the governor's right. Was the mayor. Want to talk about it? We'll get that. As officers escorted O'Rourke out of the auditorium, some of the gathered crowd jeered him, while one woman chanted, "Let him speak." Some people cried. Seemed like everybody on stage was doing crying, the fake crying beforehand, the real crying afterward, right? This is on you until you choose to do something differently. Or different, O'Rourke said. This will continue to happen. Somebody needs to stand up for the children of this state, or they will continue to be killed, just like they were killed in Uvalde yesterday. As Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick spoke about the need for mental health care inside, O'Rourke called for gun control from the parking lot. "If we do nothing, we'll continue to see this," he said. "Year after year, school after school, kid after kid." And I mean, that makes sense. Well, you know, when you have no other talking point regarding a situation like this, I mean, yes, it's mental health, okay? Yes, obviously the guy was mentally disturbed. The only reason that somebody would want to do something like that is because they're mentally disturbed. What is the Republican Party doing to help with mental illness? That's a part of healthcare. We're not really touching that. But that's beside the point. Beside the fact that they're keying in on something that they want nothing to do with, also providing any sort of assistance to. Well, I mean, what are they left with a talking point? And it seems like that's the talking point that's just making the circles. We heard Ted Cruz talking about this yesterday. We heard Ted Cruz talking about this back in 2018. It's mental health care. It's mental health. Well, mental health issues can be dealt with by health care, another thing that Republicans do not want to touch. specifically in red states. I live in a state where Obamacare was like a decade ago, and then we're not doing that. It's going to cost too much. And then when finally they put it to a vote, from actual voters in the state, well, the GOP decided that they were going to pull all the political strings that they could, all the underhanded dirty tricks from Jefferson City to not fund it for like, what, a year, 2 years? What was that? I mean, you tell me. But so there is a follow-up here, and I want to take a look at that real quick before I throw my 2 cents in. Yes, we want to watch it again.
It is absolutely wrong. In fact, it is insane. The governor talks about mental health. It is insane that we allow an 18-year-old to go in and buy an AR-15. What the hell did we think he was going to do with that? This one is on us.
And what do you say to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who says now is not the time to make this political?
Now is the time to stop the next shooting. Right after Santa Fe High School was the time to stop the next shooting. Right after El Paso was the time to stop the next shooting. Right after Midland, Odessa was the time to stop the next shooting. And in each case, we say this isn't the time. Now is the time, like literally right now. That's why I'm here. That's what we want as a state. That's what I want as a parent. I've got 3 kids who are in high school and middle school and elementary school. That's what they want. And I face their judgment and my conscience and ultimately my maker for what I do when I have the chance to change this. And I'm going to do everything in my power to change this. And I'm not alone. The majority of Texas is with us on this right now. The majority of Texas is not reflected by that governor or those people around the table who talk about mental health care or say that this is pure evil or that it was absolutely unpredictable. This is predictable. It will happen, and it will continue to happen until we change course. We've got to change course.
Look, Beto O'Rourke is 100,000% correct. As we talked about just yesterday on the show, I mean, Governor Abbott is speaking at the NRA. Governor Noom, the governor from South Dakota, she's on the NRA ads. She's hiding tweets. You got Senator Teen Wolf spewing the same boring talking points as he does every time he's on the news regarding a school shooting. I mean, I'll tell you whose fault it is. It's Dr. Oz's fault.
My father taught me how to handle my first gun. I taught my son Oliver how to do the same. I've been shooting and hunting my whole life. So when people say I won't support guns, they're dead wrong. Pull! Other conservatives know that I'm strong on the Second Amendment. Ted Nugent, Rick Perry, President Trump. But our Second Amendment is not just about hunting. It's about our constitutional right to protect ourselves from intruders or an overly intrusive government. So as your next U.S. Senator, I will fight for our constitutional rights.
Right. That's whose fault it is. It's Dr. Oz's fault. Okay, this is Dr. Oz's fault. More deaths and more grieving families are a direct result of the ultra MAGA amosexual book club and their push for big dick hyper-masculinity of guns, and more guns. I mean, do you know who talks about guns when there's a mass shooting? Liberals, leftists, Trotskyite socialists. But who talks about guns whether there's a mass shooting or not on that day? Who talks about guns when we talk about running for governor or senator or a vice presidential pick campaigning for her picker during a regular election year? People like former Alaska Governor Tina Fey talk about guns every single fucking day. Republicans talk about guns in church when they're sitting on their squatty potties. Whose fault is it that these shootings happen and that the United States has more gun violence in the last two decades than the entirety of Central and Western Europe during the entirety of the 30 Years' War? It's Dr. Oz's fault. Look, I'll go with guns don't kill people. Okay, I will. A lot of bleeding heart liberals who had previously subscribed to my YouTube channel are already just smashing their thumbs on the subscribe button and pulling their hair out while they unfollow me on Twitter, and that's okay. This isn't about you either. I'll go with guns don't kill people. What kills people is the push by the ultra MAGA righties of gun culture. Okay, I was recently asked on social media if I supported the Second Amendment by someone from my hometown. It's like just a few days ago. I don't even know this person. You know, I don't know if they've read the Second Amendment clearly to the Constitution or not, but I'll meet the feller where he is, and I did. So as much on social media, I said, I don't support people who do not understand the fundamental difference between being pro-gun and being pro-gun culture. We just heard Dr. Oz. Owning and carrying firearms is one thing. Advocating that everyone, regardless of... Nope. There's no need to finish that thought, because that's it. Regardless, the Republican stance on guns, all guns, is that regardless, everyone not only should be able to acquire one, but everyone should already have one. You already should have acquired one, and if you don't have a gun, it's because you're a sissy shitpants liberal who talks wants to take away my rights, and I'll fight a civil war to defend myself against you because I'm oppressed. That's what the GOP and the NRA have been pushing down people's throats since I was 5. And I can testify. Okay, that isn't being pro-gun. That's something completely different. Ted Cruz is not pro-gun. Greg Abbott is not pro-gun. That shitbag governor in South Dakota who tries to hide her bullshit tweets because she's afraid or ashamed of either you or the NRA is not pro-gun. Firearms are for self-defense, hunting, sport shooting. That's it. It's not a big dick trophy in and of itself. Anyone who tells you otherwise thinks you're an idiot. Don't prove them right. And if you already have, there's no shame in taking corrective action. I make mistakes all the time. Welcome to the human race. We've got a 6,000 plus year documented track record of it, right? Don't believe me. Get out your Bible right now. Open up the glossary. Look up the word dinosaur. Look up the word abortion. Look up the word mitochondria. Don't worry. George Washington, the founder of our country, died not knowing that dinosaurs exist at all. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that.